there, welcome to the kitchen at Westminster for another episode of Saving Thyme. This week, roasted red pepper soup, which is a family favorite at my house, and we're gonna do it with biscuits, okay? Because biscuits and soup, you've gotta do it. And red peppers, on sale this week, $1.88 a pound at No Frills, which was a no-brainer for me for making this soup. You need 3 pounds. That is, for me, this came at like a couple of ounces shy of 3 pounds. And what have I got here? I've got 7 peppers. So 7 decent sized peppers is all you're going to take if you don't like taking the time in the store to weigh it, or if you've got some at home. If you grow them at home, great way to use them. I'm just going to start by, this is easy, start preheating your oven to 400 degrees. The first step in roasted red pepper soup is roasting the red peppers. We've done this before. You just cut around the center little hat with a smallish knife so that you're not, losing your fingers or anything. Grab your compost bowl, look at this, and now I want to show you, I did a couple off camera earlier. Look at all the seeds in there, and you know what? You're going to throw this in your compost pile and it will grow peppers. The things that have grown in our compost is hilarious. I've had petunias growing out of it, tomatoes, heads of lettuce, like you name it, it'll grow. One year I threw the pumpkin on the ground in the backyard, the jack-o'-lantern pumpkin, grew. It grew a beautiful pumpkin for the next year. Just throw it down, those seeds will take. Just pluck all your seeds out like so. We can give it another little turn. All we're doing, so we just seeded it, now we're gonna half it. So just cut it down and get rid of any stem because we don't want it in our soup, okay? So just that little extra there, just cut it out if you can. Don't get too nervous about the very inside because you just wanna have those peppers. That is, by the way, where the heat is. A lot of heat anyway. So just like that, and then face down on a baking sheet lined with parchment. You don't need to watch me do all of these. Let's come right back. Okay, so they're all seeded, halved, ready to go. If there were any blemishes, trim them off because you won't want them. I'm just gonna get this open. 400 degree oven, 30 minutes or so. Just, that's how easy this is, okay? So just straight in they go. It's warm in there. It's cold outside, it's warm in there. I've got 30 minutes on this timer, so away I go. Now, I'm just gonna close this door and keep it quiet. Let's keep it down. Okay, I hit go on the timer, so now, biscuits. When I was getting the peppers ready, I went ahead and did this so I don't have to bend over into my big bucket of flour. 2 cups of flour, tablespoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and a little shot of salt. Not much, just a pinch, a good pinch, or a good shake. That's about it. Everything into there, just like that. Grab a fork and just push it around. And this way, if you use a fork, why a fork? If there were any lumps in there, the fork's gonna help to break it up. So just give it, just to blend it. You don't want any big mucks of salt then when we roll it out later. All the salt is in one biscuit, not ideal. Honestly, that's all we've got in there. Now, I've written on here shortening or butter. I've got to tell you, when I do biscuits, I like shortening. Okay, they flake, it keeps them flaky. Butter, I mean, if you're anti-shortening and you want to go butter, by all means, the flavor will be beautiful. Not as flaky. I like shortening. 5 tablespoons, which, in case it's easier for you, about 1/3 of a cup. Okay, so if you prefer to follow 1/3 of a cup, do that if that's the way you like to do it. 5 tablespoons. And I just did that off camera earlier so that I wouldn't have to have it all over my hands right now. I've got my pastry blender. If you don't have one, grab 2 knives and ninja style chop it up. And we're gonna do what we've done before. We're just gonna cut that in until it's just little bits. You don't want any big bits. For biscuits, we wanna really knock it down into a fine crumb. I should say, I mean, I'm a fan of doing things by hand, but there's no reason. I mean, if you've got a food processor and you want a reason to get it out, like you want to justify, why do I own this thing, right? There's so many small kitchen appliances. This is the game we play. Why do I own it? If you have one and you want to, put your dry things into the bowl of your food processor and then use pulse to cut it up. I personally, I just find, I like doing things by hand. I like watching it. I like paying attention to where it's at. And I'm not gonna walk away anyway. So I'm not going anywhere. So I prefer to do it like this, but by all means, if you've got one, get it out. Use it if you want to. Freeze up your hands. So you can see I've just got this grainy looking, okay? We can't see any big lumps. It's just like that. Make sure you start with cold shortening or butter, okay? So that it doesn't just turn into a creamed mixture. You don't want it like that. You want it cold. That's a bad sound a little bit, but you know me, I don't want to waste any. We can set that to the side. So there we go. We've got that in there, and all we need now is, my recipe calls for buttermilk. Buttermilk is sold by the liter. So unless you know that you're gonna do something else with it, feels like a bit much. If you don't have buttermilk and you don't want to buy it, put either a tablespoon of lemon juice or a tablespoon of vinegar in the bottom of your measuring cup. And put that there, I'm not going to use it again. And then grab some milk or some cream. There. I've got some cream. Oh my gosh, let me tell you a story. Was I ever in a bit of a funk yesterday. Grocery shopping yesterday was a bit of a nightmare. I gotta tell you, everything was going wrong. We need a cup. So we've got our tablespoon in first and then add to the cup level. Okay, not a cup plus a tablespoon, just bring it to the cup. So I got here with my bag of groceries, the carton of cream had a hole in it. Evidently, everything in the shopping bag was covered with cream. There was still significant cream in the carton, so I poured it into this, but I've got to tell you, I was washing everything off the bag. You can imagine the smell of sour milk, right? Oh, geez Louise, what a hassle. We'll put that back in there. That's why the cream's in the picture though. And that's the way it goes sometimes, right? Oh, yay. I was in a bad mood about the whole thing. These things are just unnecessary problems. Got to let that sit for a minute. It's just going to sour the milk a little bit. And while it sits, we can start, or you can start. I did it off camera. You're going to need 1 finely diced onion and 4 diced or minced. If you want to get your press out, go for it. Cloves of garlic. So I did that, and you know about me and my very fancy lids. It works. It works. They're going to be sitting there ready. We're going to saute them in anticipation of the peppers coming. We don't need to start that yet, but go ahead and get them cut up. We're going to blend this into here, bring it into a dough. That's all we need to do. I'm not sure I'm going to want the spoon. I might just go with the fork. So pour it all in. This is how easy biscuits are. Okay, we didn't use an egg or anything like that. We're counting on our baking powder and a bit of baking soda to be our leavening. So just the buttermilk, or make-believe buttermilk, make-believe, makeshift, whatever. I mean, it works, right? I have a few recipes that use buttermilk, and then if I buy a liter, it's kind of fun, because then I race through all the recipes that use it to use it up. And I almost always end up then wishing I had more. And it's just to gather it into a dough. So you can see how that's all coming together, and we don't have any dry bits anymore in there. I'm gonna get it off the fork, and then we need to get that nice and smooth, which, you know, is the messy part of all of this. We're gonna get sticky hands and live with it, right? We can live with it. We can live with some sticky hands. I put a little extra powder, or flour powder, not baking powder. It's not, but don't waste your baking powder. A little flour in there to use for this. I'm gonna gather it up. I'm gonna keep kneading it. Try not to add too much flour, okay, because it's not another ingredient. This is extra. I'm gonna knead it off camera. We don't need to do this. I'll come back when I've got it nice and smooth. Okay, nice, right? Not sticking to me anymore. That's how you know you're done. It's smooth and it's not sticky anymore. I left this out because sometimes I find when I'm just starting to knead, grab a spatula to grab it away from the edges of the bowl and help you gather it. Otherwise it's under your nails. Put some flour on your surface, or if you have a sill mat that you can do this on, then you don't need hardly any flour. And you can roll. I got a rolling pin out in case I decide to use it, or just pat. You want to be about 3/4 of an inch thick. So and if you keep turning it, it's less likely to stick. Or you're going to know when it has. And now we've done kneading and all of that a few times. We did it with scones and we've done it with pastry, so that I felt like we didn't need to do it on camera again, but it's not hard. You really just fold it, flip and fold, so that until it's smooth and not sticking to you, right? That's all we're looking for, is nice and smooth, not sticking. I think we're probably pretty good here. Try to make sure that the center, that's where I get into trouble. My center is always significantly higher than the rest. Shannon's gonna love that I'm doing this. There. Now, I didn't bring a biscuit cutter, but I've got this nice little glass. I found it in the cupboard, and that's what I'm going to use. Get yourself a baking sheet ready with parchment. You need something 2 to 3 inches, okay, for a nice sized biscuit. And just like that. Look at that, right? And we should get, I don't know, in the area of a dozen, I would think. We'll see how we do with this on. And all our little scraps we'll gather up and cut more biscuits from. And see how nice that is? Like, look at how easy that was. Like, why wouldn't we be doing this while the peppers are roasting? Which, by the way, the smell in here is divine. You want to do this just so that your house smells this good. And then people come in and you say, oh my gosh, what we're having for dinner tonight, right? It's so good. And this soup, I want to, when we get to the stage where we puree it, I'm going to point out at that point, you can set it aside until you're ready to finish it for your dinner if you wanted to get it made ahead of time. Or you could even freeze it, especially if you've got, you know, if you had a big glut of peppers come up in your garden. And look, we're already at 12. And if you had a big glut of peppers in your garden, or in the summer when they go on sale, or if you're at the farmer's market and you buy some beautiful ones, you could get your soup base all ready and then bring it out of the freezer all year round to turn into a quick and easy supper. So keep that in mind. And I mean, if you're roasting them, what the heck, you can roast a few. Look at us go. We are getting lots here. I'll find a way to fit them on. I sure as heck I'm not gonna waste any. That one's got a bite out of it, we'll leave it. In your house, you watch, that one would wait until the end because everyone would think that it had a little bite out of it. And this one's going to be, we're not even gonna try to cut it, we're just gonna turn it into a nice little biscuit. It's got messy edges, a bit like my hair, messy on the edges. That's okay. Okay, let's get these spread out a little bit. They're not gonna spread like cookies, but we wanna give them room to bake. Like, we want air to be able to circulate. So that's really all we're aiming for here. We'll put that little nubby one there. Okay, does that look pretty good? That looks pretty good. I think we're in fine form. There. Now, these only take like 15 minutes in the oven, so we're nowhere near time to put them in. Just going to move them to the fridge. You can throw a tea towel over them, is ideal to cover them up. Don't get your saran wrap out, okay? Leave that alone. Just throw a towel or something over them. And I'll just check my timer. We are 13 minutes still on the timer. I can show you what these peppers look like, and then we'll go off camera until they're ready to come out. You can see, aren't they coming up beautiful? Aren't they lovely? And the smell, my goodness, so good. Keep an eye on them. You don't want them to char. But at this point, they're roasting. They're roasting. I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, time's up. And the smell, honestly, the smell is divine. Here they come. And Look at these roasted beauties. Aren't they pretty? Close that. While you're over here at your oven doing this, turn the oven temperature up so that it's going to be 425. Preheat it ready for your biscuits when the time comes. You need an airtight container. Grab a Ziploc bag if that's what you've got. I reuse them endlessly. No big surprise. Just give them a little rinse. They're great. And if you don't have that, put it in it like a Tupperware container, so it needs to be airtight. They're going to be hot, so be careful. I don't know if I love that or not, but there. And into the bag. We need it to be airtight because we're going to blister them. You want to get them in there while they're good and hot because steam is what's going to do the work for us. Just loose. I'm just using that because I don't relish burning my fingers. If you aren't afraid of your fingers getting burned, go ahead, pick them up. They stick a little, but not much. They're kind of funny because they're all soft. And just, they don't need to go in the bag in a tidy way or anything like that. This works great because the skins blister up and they will peel off so easily for us. Just loading them in there. They need to be in the bag for at least 15 minutes. I mean, if you've got something to do and you're away for 25, it's not gonna, nothing bad is going to happen. But think in terms of minimum 15 minutes. Too hot. See? We're close. Hot, 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 hot. Make sure you use parchment. Foil has let me down in the past where they've stuck to the foil and then it's ripping and yeah, you know, and then it's not an enjoyable cooking experience anymore. Get the air out of there and zip it up. Leave it be. It's going to be great. Do up your dishes, talk to your kids, go watch television. I'm going to come, they need 15 minutes. I'm going to come back in 10. We're going to be ready to start the rest of the soup and start thinking about getting our biscuits in the oven. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, peppers are soft in here. We're going to be ready. Just before we start that, because they legit have 5 more minutes, we've been 10. I've got a tablespoon of butter in here. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of oil. Any kind of oil will do. Just a dollop in there. Set that on your stove to start melting and heating up a little bit. And just on low heat. And then once it's melted, we're going to add our onion and garlic and just saute it until it's soft, okay? We're not doing anything too dramatic there, we're just sauteing it soft. I'm gonna put the lid back on this broth before I spill it because that would be very disappointing and it would ruin our ability to make soup because I only bought the one. At the same time, we can pluck our biscuits out. I just threw a towel over them while they were in there just to keep them nice. And there we go. That can go there. So the biscuits are going to go in the oven once we get moving here in a bit. They're fine right there for the time being. We can start doing this. Grab yourself I emptied my compost bowl and now I need another. You know, it's the way it goes. I hear my butter sizzling, so I'm going to dump this in. Don't let the heat be too high because we don't want them to get incredibly brown and we sure don't want them to disappear. So, low heat, let them be. Give them a stir so they all get coated in the oil and butter and then turn it down relatively low. We're just softening them. The peppers have been in here. So when you take them out, look at how the skins are all blistered, okay? And what we want to do is, the trick is to find an edge. Look at that, right? Compost. And just look at that, right? If there's a little bit left on one of them, don't get nervous about it. See how that was? Can you imagine if we tried to peel them before we were, like, right? What a mess. So we had this handy bowl, we can do that. And you just get a hold of it and then stick your thumb under it, whatever you need to do. Just keep plucking them off. This is super easy. If your oven isn't quite to 425 yet, just wait a minute for those. We can be a minute. And whoops, that one's a jumper. Watch out for that one. Isn't that fun? I kind of like doing this. I gotta tell you, I kind of like it. It's kind of weird, but it's also fun. When I do tomatoes in the summer, when they all come in the garden, I freeze them whole. I give them a little wash and dry them off and freeze them. And then when I take them out to use them, I pour boiling water. I just pour a kettle of boiling water over them and let them sit a second, and the skins blister up and come off like this, and then they're ready to make soup and such with. Easy peasy. Isn't that cool? I can finish these off camera. I'm having a lot of fun. Okay, these have been softening, and look at how beautiful these look, right? And look, there's our skin. So easy. These are good. We want to add about 1/4 of a cup of wine, and we're going to let it evaporate. And then, just mind yourself when you pour the wine in, okay? Now, ideally, I use white wine. I have some red left in the cupboard. That's what I'm going to use, okay? I'm not going to get too nervous about it. Just pour it to the side so that all that steam that comes up doesn't hit you. And then that one can go over there. We're going to let that evaporate. It won't take only a minute. I can smell it, and it's quite nice. And it just puts a hint on there. It's going to cook itself off. While that happens, we can talk. If I didn't say before, and I want to make sure I did, peppers were only $1.88 a pound at No Frills. And that's until Wednesday of next week, so that's February 16th. What a good buy. You're going to love the soup. Go and get them. So, I mean, 3 pounds, I spent like less than $6 on them. All in, I'm less than $10 on this meal. Can you imagine? Now, I had stuff on hand, but you probably do too. 99 cents for chicken broth and beef broth this week. So that's too cheap. We're going to add this once that's evaporated. It could use another second. We're going to add the peppers, some salt and pepper. I don't really go far with other seasonings in this. The peppers have beautiful profile. We don't need to add a whole lot of anything to make them brilliant. I'm just going to push that. It's just about completely evaporated, so I'm going to call it good. I'm going to start adding my peppers. And in they go. And this bowl. In they go. Look at how beautiful that is. It's so delicious. Now we can add our broth. You can add the full liter. If you're using the little bouillon cubes, I guess you want 4 cups. So you probably use 5 of the little packets. I think they each do, they say 3/4 of a cup. So go 5. And dump it all in there. It's going forever. This is a very long liter. Give it a little push around. Get those peppers under it. This spoon is hot. Yikes. I'm not a fan of how hot that spoon got. Set it there for the second. And then we're just going to add a little salt and pepper. Let's go like a teaspoon. Because they can always add at the table. Right? We can let people choose for themselves. And put that in. About a teaspoon. Go a little more than a teaspoon of salt. And we'll give it a push around. We're going to bring it to a boil, and then we're going to put the lid on it and let it simmer for at least 10 minutes, okay? We're going to bring it up to a boil. I'll turn the heat up. Once it's at a boil, lid on. I'm going to take that out because it was really hot and hurting my hand. I'm not going to let it do that again. As soon as it boils, lid on. And in the meantime, these are going to be oven ready. If your oven's it's already at a boil, so I'm going to go ahead and put these in. They only take 12 to 15 minutes. It's not long in the oven, so we don't want them to finish too far ahead of our soup. I mean, they're fine sitting for a few minutes, but you want to serve them warm too. So in they go. We'll give them, I'm going to look at them in 12 minutes. And away she goes. Oh, a while ago someone rented the kitchen and we've never found the lid for this pot since, so I'm just going to use this lid. Turn it down a little bit. I'm sorry, excuse me. Because once it's out of boil, we don't want it to make a mess. Lid on. Let it go. 10 minutes. about the same time that's gonna be done. I'll see you soon. Hey, soup's ready. And you know what, if you wanted to let that simmer for longer, it's fine, minimum 10 minutes. There it is, it's beautiful. It smells so good. It smells so good. I've got my immersion blender, and if you don't have an immersion blender, then just use a slotted spoon to move it over into the pitcher of your standard blender. And we're not gonna do this all on camera because you don't wanna hear all this noise. Just, in you go. Just wanna keep going until it's nice and smooth. I always just kind of bob around a little. And you know, plus it's fun to say you're bobbing. Okay, I'll come back when I've got this ready to go over to the stove. Okay, it's all pureed and beautiful. Just puree until you don't have any bits left in there. Return it to the heat and stir in half a cup of cream. Half a cup. And just on there, and just stir as you blend, okay? If you don't have cream, you can use milk, or you could even use half a cup of evaporated milk, okay? So don't, I mean, I'm using 10% coffee cream, you know, the one that was spilling. Just blend it in, I'm sorry, excuse me, blend it in, you're just keeping it warm. You're just making sure your cream doesn't chill your soup too much. So go ahead, set the table. My biscuits are out of the oven. Shannon, you can take a shot of those. Show them how beautiful they are. And we'll be back in just a second to plate. You go set your table. Soup's ready. It is beautiful. Oh my God, I'm just in love with this soup. Look at the beautiful color of this soup. It is gorgeous. You want this soup, I know you do. I should have said, and I didn't, before you add the cream, if you were getting your soup ready in the morning or early in the day and then you want to serve it later, just keep it just at the base from the blender and add your cream only when you're ready to serve it. Similarly, if you made a big batch, after you puree it, put that soup base into the jars to freeze, okay? And then you just add your cream the day you're gonna serve it. Let's get busy. Look at this meal. Oh, ha, what a treat. You're gonna love this recipe, and when you do, like the video. Share the video. Subscribe to the Westminster Orangeville channel and hit the little bell so you know when we come back with a new video each week. And please, I mean, keep enjoying them. This is delicious food. Every time you like the video, you help Westminster feed meals like this forward in our community. Help us help, okay? Keep doing our parts. Look at these biscuits. Gorgeous, gorgeous, okay? Can't go wrong. Look at how pretty they are. I've already got some butter out because we're gonna wanna melt some beautiful butter on there. Look at this lovely meal. You've got homemade biscuits, roasted red pepper soup. Oh my goodness, it's gorgeous.